Good day. Today, I'll be presenting a series of assessments that dive into crucial topics in web development, particularly focusing on Laravel. These topics covers essential aspects of creating secure, efficient, and user-friendly web applications. We'll start by exploring form handling and validation, emphasizing their role in maintaining data integrity and security. Then, we'll move into Laravel's authentication system, discussing how it protects routes and resources while handling user registration and login securely. Following that, I'll explain the CRUD operations: create, read, update, and delete, and demonstrate how Laravel ensures these operations are both functional and secure. We'll also cover Google reCAPTCHA integration, a vital tool for enhancing form security against boots. Finally, we'll discuss the integration of OTP, the one-time password functionality, which adds an additional layer of security to applications through email and SMS-based authentication. By the end of this presentation, I hope to provide you with a clearer understanding of Laravel's powerful features and how they contribute to building secure, scalable, and maintainable web applications. We'll start by introduction. In this presentation, we will explore the importance of form handling and validation, not only in maintaining data integrity but also in protecting against potential vulnerabilities. Number 2, the Laravel's robust features for security and authentication, helping developers defend their applications against threats like SQL injection and cross-site request forgery. Number 3, the practical steps to create, read, update, and delete data securely within Laravel applications, ensuring a smooth and safe user experience. And finally, the integration of Google reCAPTCHA as an added layer of protection against spam and malicious attacks. Each of these assessments will help us dive deeper into how Laravel empowers developers to prioritize both functionality and security in their applications. Assessment 1. Secure and user-friendly web development with Laravel. Form handling, validation, and best practices. 1. Why is form handling and validation important in web development, particularly in terms of data integrity and security? So form handling and validation are critical because they act as the first line of defense against invalid or malicious data. When users submit forms, whether for logging in, registering, or posting content, we must ensure the data is clean, accurate, and safe. Validation enforces rules like required fields, proper email formats, or password complexity. From a security standpoint, proper validation helps prevent issues like SQL injection, where attackers attempt to manipulate your database, or cross-site scripting, the XSS, where malicious scripts could compromise your site or user data. Simply put, strong form handling and validation protect both the users and the application. Number 2. What are some key Laravel features that help prevent security vulnerabilities such as SQL injection and cross-site request forgery, the CSRRF, when handling form data? So Laravel offers several built-in features to safeguard your application. SQL injection prevention: Laravel uses eloquent ORM and parameterized queries, which automatically skip inputs to prevent attackers from injecting harmful SQL commands. The CSRF protection: Laravel provides CSRF tokens to protect your forms from cross-site request forgery. When a user submits a form, Laravel checks the token to ensure the request is genuine and not forged by an attacker. The validation rules: Laravel's validation system ensures inputs meet specific criteria, reducing the chances of invalid or harmful data entering the system. So these features are easy to implement and highly effective, making Laravel a secure framework for handling user data. Number 3. How would you create a basic form in Laravel using a Blade template and handle its submission in a controller? Include an example of how to define validation rules. So creating a form in Laravel involves 3 simple steps. Number 1, design the form in a Blade template. So here's the code. And number 2, the CSRF directive ensures CSRF protection. Handling form submission in a controller. In the controller, define a method to handle the request. And the route the form. Add a route in web.php. So this setup ensures clean, secure, and validation form handling in Laravel. Number 4. How can customizing validation error messages improve the user experience in a web application? So provide an example of how you would customize and display validation error messages in a Blade template. So default validations error messages can be generic and users may find them unhelpful or unclear. Customizing these messages makes them more user-friendly and specific, improving the overall experience. So for example, in a store method, you can define custom error messages, like in this code. And in the Blade template displays the error like this. So these tailored messages users understand and correct their mistakes easily. 5. What are the benefits of centralizing validation logic in Laravel applications, and how does this contribute to the maintainability of a web application? So centralizing validation logic makes your application more organized and easier to maintain. By using form requests in Laravel, you can separate validation rules from controllers. This approach promotes code reuse, consistency, and better readability, which are essential for maintaining and scaling applications. So those are the example codes. The create a form request, store form request, and use it in the controller. Here's the conclusion for assessment 1. Form handling and validation are more than technical requirements. They're the backbone of secure and user-friendly web applications. Laravel's powerful tools make it easier to achieve these goals, ensuring both data integrity and a great user experience. With these practices, you can develop applications that are not just functional, but also secure, scalable, and enjoyable for users. Next is the assessment 2. The Laravel authentication and scalability best practices. So, number 1. What is the role of middleware in Laravel's authentication system, and how does it help protect routes and resources from unauthorized access? Middleware in Laravel acts as a gatekeeper for your application, controlling access to routes and resources. For authentication, middleware ensures that only authenticated users can access specific parts of the application. For example, the auth middleware checks if a user is logged in before granting access to a route. Number 2. How does Laravel's built-in authentication system handle user registration and login, including the management of session tokens and the validation of input data? So Laravel's built-in authentication system simplifies users' registration and login through the registration. Laravel validates user input using request validation rules and store the data securely using hash passwords. The login. It uses the auth facade to authenticate users based on their credentials. The session tokens. Laravel generates and manages session tokens to identify login users. These tokens are stored securely, ensuring the user remains authenticated during their session. Here's the example codes. And this process ensures secure authentication, making user login seamless and reliable. Number 3. Explain the importance of security measures like SQL injection prevention and XSS protection in login and registration forms. How does Laravel assist in preventing these vulnerabilities? So, SQL injection prevention, attackers often try to inject malicious SQL commands through form inputs. Laravel prevents this by using parameterized queries with eloquent ORM and query builder. So here, Laravel automatically escapes the input block injection attempts. The XSS protection, Laravel encodes output data to prevent attackers from injecting malicious scripts. Using the syntax and blade template automatically escape contents. So by default, Laravel also includes CSRF protection to secure forms from unauthorized submissions. These measures collectively fortify login and registration forms against common vulnerabilities. Number 4. How would you create and apply custom middleware in Laravel to restrict access to specific routes based on users' rules such as an admin-only route? So creating custom middleware to restrict routes based on user rules involves these steps. 1. Create the middleware. Use the artisan command. Number 2. Define logic in middleware. In check admin.php. Number 3. The register middleware. Add it to the kernel.php. And number 4. Apply middleware to routes. This ensures only admin users can access the specified routes, improving security and control. 5. In terms of scalability, how can Laravel's authentication system be adapted to handle a growing number of users and requests? So give examples like session management or token-based authentication. Here's the answer. Laravel's authentication system can scale efficiently using the following approaches. The session management for high traffic store sessions in a database or caching system. The token-based authentication use Laravel's Passport or Sanctum for API-based applications. Token-based authentication removes the need for session storage, making it ideal for scaling. The database optimization. Index critical columns such as email in the users. These practices ensure Laravel can support a growing number of users without compromising performance or security. The load balancing. Deploy the application on multiple servers and use load balancers to distribute traffic effectively. These practices ensures Laravel can support a growing number of users without compromising performance or security. So here's the conclusion for assessment 2. Laravel's authentication system is not only secure but also highly flexible, making it ideal for both small and large-scale applications. With middleware, session management, and token-based authentication, Laravel provides the tools necessary to protect your application while ensuring it can scale as your user base grows. Assessment 3. The Mastering CRUD Operations in Laravel. Number 1. What are the case steps involving in implementing the create operation in Laravel, and how do blade views and form handling play a role in this process? So, create operation in Laravel involves three main steps. Number 1. Set up routes. Define a route to display the form and another to handle form submissions. Next is create a blade template. Use blade to design the form and ensure it is user-friendly. Next is handle the form submission. In the controller, process and store the data in the database. Blade views and form handling play a crucial role by providing a clean interface for user input while ensuring seamless data submission. Number 2. Explain the importance of data validation and sanitization in CRUD operations. How does Laravel ensure security when handling user input during these operations? So data validation and sanitations are vital for preventing invalid data and enhancing security data. So in preventing invalid data, validation ensures that only properly formatted data is stored in the database. While enhancing security, sanitization removes harmful inputs that could lead to SQL injection or XSS attacks. So, Laravel enforces security by providing built-in validation and request sanitation tools. For example, the provided code. By using these tools, Laravel ensures that user input is checked before being processed or is stored, reducing vulnerabilities. Number 3. Describe how you would implement the read operation in Laravel to retrieve and display data from the database using both a controller method and a blade view. The read operation involves controller method. Fetch data from the database and pass it to a blade view. Next is the blade view. Use a blade template to display the data. This process allows dynamic retrieval and presentation of data, enabling a responsive and user-friendly interface. Number 4. What is the purpose of the update operation in Laravel? And how would you handle form submissions to modify existing data entries in the database? The update operation allows user to modify existing data. 1. Set up routes. Define routes for editing and updating data. 2. The controller methods. Edit. Fetch the specific record and pass it to the blade view. The update. Validate and save the changes. Next is the blade template, with provide a pre-filled form for editing. Number 5. How can you ensure that the delete operation in Laravel is secure and prevents accidental or unauthorized data removal? What role does validation play in this process? So to ensure secure and intentional data deletion, set up routes and controller method. Use a delete route and method to handle the deletion. Next is the confirmation dialog. Add the confirmation step in the blade template to prevent accidental deletions. Next is authorization. Ensures only authorized users can delete records by using middleware or policies. By combining validation, authorization, and user prompts, you can prevent accidental or unauthorized deletions. Conclusion for Assessment 3. CRUD operations form the foundation of web development. Laravel's built-in features for validation, blade templating, and secure handling of database interaction makes it a powerful framework for implementing these operations efficiently. By adhering to best practices, developers can build maintainable and secure web applications. So Assessment 4. Securing web forms with Google reCAPTCHA and Laravel. 1. What is the purpose of Google reCAPTCHA and how does it enhance the security of web applications when integrated with forms? So Google reCAPTCHA is a security tool designed to differentiate between human users and automated boots. It enhances the security of web application by preventing boot attacks, spam, and abusive form submissions. reCAPTCHA protects forms by requiring users to complete a challenge such as selecting images or solving puzzles to prove they are not boots. By integrating reCAPTCHA, you ensure that only legitimate users can submit forms, significantly reducing the chances of spam and abuse. This is especially important for login, registration, and contact forms, where malicious submissions can result in unwanted data or even security breaches. Number 2. Describe the process of obtaining and registering reCAPTCHA site and secret keys from Google. Why is it important to update the domain when moving from localhost to a production environment? So to use Google reCAPTCHA in your web application, you need to obtain site and secret keys. Here's how you can get them. 1. Register for reCAPTCHA. Go to Google reCAPTCHA website and sign in with your Google account. Click on Admin Console. Register a new site by providing a name, selecting the type of reCAPTCHA, the V2 or V3, in entering the domain or localhost URL where the reCAPTCHA will be used. So once registered, Google will provide you provide you with a site key for the front end and a secret key for the back end. So why update the domain? It's crucial to update the domain when moving from localhost to production environment to ensure that the reCAPTCHA works correctly. The site and secret keys are domain specific. So using the same keys for both environments may lead to errors. This is because Google restricts reCAPTCHA keys to the domains they are registered to, preventing abuse. So how would you integrate reCAPTCHA into a Laravel form? Outline the steps from installing the necessary package to adding the reCAPTCHA field in the form. So first, install the package. Laravel doesn't include reCAPTCHA by default, so you need to install a package to help with integration. A popular choice is the Ansible No CAPTCHA. Install it via Composer. So next is configure the keys. Add the site key and secret keys in the .env file. Then add them to config services.php. Add the reCAPTCHA field to your form. In your blade template, insert the reCAPTCHA. Next is include the reCAPTCHA script. So don't forget to include the reCAPTCHA script at the bottom of your blade template. Now, the Laravel form will display the reCAPTCHA challenges and users will need to complete it before submitting the form. Number 4. Explain how to validate reCAPTCHA responses in Laravel. What role do the reCAPTCHA secret keys plays in this validation process? So to validate the reCAPTCHA response, handle the validation in controller. In your controller, after the form is submitted, validate the reCAPTCHA response by sending it to the Google server using the secret key. So here's the example code for validation. And the rule of secret keys is used to the server side to validate the user's reCAPTCHA response. It is essential for confirming that the challenge was completed by a human and not a bot. The response sent by the user is validated against the secret key on Google servers to ensure that it's valid response. Number 5. How can customizing error messages for failed reCAPTCHA attempts improve user experience? Provide an example of how you would handle reCAPTCHA errors in a Laravel controller. So customizing error messages for failed reCAPTCHA attempts can improve user experience by providing clear and specific feedback. Instead of a generic error message, users should know exactly what went wrong so they can take corrective action. So here's the example of customizing reCAPTCHA error message in the Laravel controller code. This custom error message will prompt users to correctly complete the reCAPTCHA challenge, making the error message more user-friendly. So here's the conclusion for assessment 4. Integrating Google reCAPTCHA into Laravel forms, enhancing security by ensuring that only legitimate users can submit forms. By following the steps for integration, validating reCAPTCHA responses, and customizing error messages, you can provide a secure and user-friendly experience for your web application users. These practices protect your app from boots and malicious submissions, ensuring the integrity of the data collected. So for the last assessment, the assessment 5, enhancing user security with OTP integration in Laravel. 1. What is the purpose of integrating OTP functionality into Laravel application? And how does it enhance security for users? So the OTP or the one-time password is a security mechanism used to verify user identity during critical actions such as login, registration, or sensitive transactions. By integrating OTP functionality into a Laravel application, you provide an additional layer of authentication, making it harder for unauthorized users to gain access to your user accounts or sensitive data. So, OTP enhances security by ensuring that only the intended recipient can complete the authentication process, preventing unauthorized access even if an attacker has obtained the user's password, reducing the risk of phishing, and brute force attacks. For example, a users might receive an OTP via email or SMS during login. They must enter this OTP to successfully authenticate, thereby confirming their identity. So number 2, describe the process of generating and sending an OTP via email in Laravel. What configuration steps are needed in the .env file to set up email functionality? So to generate and send an OTP via email in Laravel, follow these steps. 1. Generate the OTP. Use Laravel's built-in functions to generate a random numeric or alphanumeric OTP. Here's the example. Number 2. Store the OTP. Save the OTP in the database or cache for verification later. Send the OTP via email. Use Laravel's mail facade to send the OTP to the user's email address. Next is set up email configuration in .env file. Update your .env file with email settings to ensure Laravel can send emails. And last, create the email template. Use Laravel's mailable class to define the email content and pass the OTP to the view. So by configuring these settings, Laravel can send OTPs securely to users' email address. Number 3. Explain how can you integrate an SMS OTP service using Twilio and Laravel. What configuration are required in the .env file and the controller to send OTPs via SMS? So to integrate an SMS OTP service using Twilio and Laravel, follow these steps. First, install the Twilio SDK. Add the Twilio package to your project using User Composer. Next, configure Twilio in .env. Add your Twilio credentials to the .env file. Last, set up the controller. Use the Twilio API to send the OTP via SMS, for example, the provided code. By integrating Twilio, you can reliably deliver OTPs via SMS, providing users with a secure and convenient authentication method. Number 4. How can you handle OTP verification in Laravel? Describe the process of validating the OTP and the necessary steps to handle success or failure of the verification. To handle OTP verification in Laravel, retrieve the user input, collect the OTP input from the user via a form submission. Number 2, validate the OTP. Compare the user-provided OTP with the stored OTP in the database or cache. Example for the provided code. Number 3, handle success or failure. On success, allow the users to proceed. On failure, display an error message and optionally allow a retry. So by validating OTPs properly, you ensure secure access and prevent unauthorized users from proceeding. Number 5. What are some key customization options available when handling OTPs such as error messages or retry attempts? And how can this improve the user experience? Here's the key customization options for OTP handling include number 1, the error messages. Clear and specific error messages help users understand what went wrong. For example, number 2, the retry attempts. Limit the number of OTP retries to prevent abuse. Example below. Expiration time. Set an expiration time for the OTP to improve security. For instance, you can use Laravel Cache to store OTPs with a time limit. Number 4, custom templates. Use customized SMS or email templates to match your application's branding. This enhancement not only improves security but also ensures a smooth and user-friendly experience during authentication. So here's for the last conclusion for the assessment 5. Integrating OTP functionality into a Laravel application adds a vital layer of security to protect users and sensitive actions. By implementing OTPs via email and SMS, validating them securely, and offering user-friendly customization, You can enhance both security and the user experience. These practices ensure robust authentication and safeguard your web application against threats.